George, there you are, my pet. Okay, character relationship. What tone is she taking with him? Patronising.
Yeah.
His sense of the injustice, I suppose, in terms of the power and control within their relationship. So Nick is impressed, rising. Well now, look at his response. So now we've got an issue in terms of how he's responding to Martha. That's going to enhance the tension, isn't it? By standing up like that and responding like that, what is he inferring? Or what do we understand?
That he's impressed by Martha.
Yes. He finds her attractive. Okay? So George, why Martha? Your Sunday chapel dress. Tone have we got here? Yeah, I would even go as far as to say irony there. Because clearly he's meaning the complete opposite of that. So honey is slightly disapproving. Oh, that's most attractive. That's important because even she picks up, but she clearly picks up on the sexual threats that Martha poses. So potentially, you've got tension between Martha and Honey as two women potentially vying for the same man. So Martha is showing off. You like it? Good. So she turns to George. What the hell do you mean, screaming up the stairs at me like that? That's quite explicit conflict. She has been confrontational. She has criticised his behaviours. So that's a criticism of his behaviours. And again, this all relates to this idea of power and control. So she deliberately undermines him. And I think the source of that conflict is to do with power. And they are playing a power game with each other. Who has more power? We got lonely, darling. There again, the word darling being done in a patronising way. We got lonely for the soft purr of your little voice. Why have I annotated soft purr? Imagery. It's analytic. Okay? And potentially, if you're talking about the power dynamics in their relationship and the fact that George refers to her as, there you are, my pet, refers to her as my pet, and then refers to her soft purr. You can link those two quotations together, and it will also enable you not just to talk about the characterisation of the character relationship, but also imagery as well in your analysis. So we're starting to see that you've got quite a spread of literary terminology. So Martha deciding not to rise to it. So again, we've got this stager that's helping us understand, oh well then, you just trot over to the valley. Again, condescending, patronising. George taking the tone from her and make your little mummy a great big drink. What is he inferring here? And he goes on a bit later on to reinforce this. What does he infer here about her characterisation? Okay, we'll leave it, we'll come back to it. So Martha giggles, that's right, Nick. Well, did you two have a nice little talk? You men solve the problems of the world as usual. Well, no, George, quickly. What we did actually, if you really want to know, what we did actually is try to figure out what you two were talking about. Honey giggles and Martha laughs. Martha to Honey, aren't they saying something? Aren't these cheerful, disdainful men the absolute end? To George, why don't you sneak upstairs and listen in? So again, that says something about his characterisation. What does it tell us about his characterisation?
Insecure?
Yep. Okay, so he's not just confrontational when we're talking about his characterisation, we're also looking at this idea that he is potentially insecure. Oh, I wouldn't have listened, Martha. I would have peeked. Honey giggles, Martha laughs. Nick to George with false heartiness. It's a conspiracy, George, and now we'll never know. Shucks. Martha to Nick as Honey beams. Hey, you must be quite a boy getting your masters when you were, what, 12? You hear that, George? 12 and a half, actually. No, 19, really. This is also a source of the tension between Nick and George. Why?
Because Nick poses a bigger threat to George now that he's got this impressive backstory.
So Nick poses a threat to George in terms of his status. Okay? So clearly Nick is an intellect, and a greater intellect than George's. Honey, oh, I'm proud of you. And George seriously, sadly. That's very impressive. Martha aggressively. Damn right. So she's, in her response there, she's setting them up against each other. George between his teeth. I said I was impressed, Martha. I'm beside myself with jealousy. What do you want me to do? Throw up? Jeanette, that really is very impressive, honey. You should be right proud. So here we can see that Martha is deliberately aggravating that sense of competition between them and perhaps highlighting his inadequacies. So honey says, Paul, he's a pretty nice fella. George to Nick. I would be surprised if he did take over the history department one of these days. And look what happens here, the mistake. The biology department. The biology department, of course, has been preoccupied with history. Oh, what a remark. He strikes the pose with his hand in his heart and head raised and his voice stentorian. I am preoccupied with history. What's happened here? Thinking about George's characterisation. He's deliberately undermining here. We don't know for sure if he does remember it's the biology department or if he's got confused with the history department, but certainly the dramatic way that he then goes, I am preoccupied with history, would suggest that perhaps he was deliberate in incorrectly identifying the department that Nick works for. Why would that be an insult? Because it means that George doesn't really listen to Nick, because he deems Nick to be unimportant. And again, that's to do with the dynamics in their relationship.